Hello everybody, my name is Sonia Mainstone-Cotton and I'm here doing a webinar for you today. I'm just going to share my screen so we can find my PowerPoint and then we can be ready to go. Okay, hopefully you can see those okay. So I'm here doing a webinar today on babies and toddlers and new parents' wellbeing. So I'm going to be talking you through some ideas over the next 30 minutes around what that could look like. First of all, to say we're grateful to the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority for making this initiative a reality. And there will be time for questions at the end. So there's a chat box and please put some questions in the chat box and then I will answer all the questions that I'm able to at the end. If there are questions that I'm unable to answer, then there may be the possibility of them being sent to me and I'll answer them afterwards via email. There's also some information that I've written that goes alongside this, which I understand you'll be able to have access to. So just tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. So my name is Sonia Mainstone-Cotton, as I said. I work in the UK. I'm based in Bath, which is the southwest of the UK. I've worked in early years for around 30 years. And early years for us is 0 to 7, but I particularly specialise in those really little ones, 0 to 4 particularly. So I have a degree in early years and a master's in early years. I'm a mum to 2 daughters who are aged 21 and 23. And what I do most of the time is I work part-time as what we call here a nurture consultant, which is quite an unusual role. I support 4-year-olds who have something called social, emotional and mental health needs. And those are 4-year-olds who are really struggling with life, who find things very difficult to deal with for a whole variety of reasons. I also write books, so I've written 7 books. I'm currently writing my 8th book on many topics, but particularly around children's wellbeing and staff wellbeing. And I've previously done work for Kinderly in the UK on wellbeing and looking at wellbeing particularly. That's become a bit of an area for me that I specialise in. And when it's not COVID, I deliver training around the country. But currently I'm at home delivering training. So we're going to look at what is well-being? What does well-being mean for babies and toddlers? So well-being is a phrase that gets used a lot now, thinking about our own well-being as adults and as parents and as carers and educators, but also talking about children's well-being. And I'm going to look at both in this session. It's only half an hour, so it's not very long, but I'm just going to take us through some ideas. In the UK particularly, there's a real emphasis on the first 1,001 days. And I think that's it's an idea that's being picked up academically all over now, all over the world. The first 1,001 days we recognise as being probably some of the most crucial time in a child's life. And that's from pregnancy to 2 years old. And it's described as the foundation for a child. Those really, really essential things. It's the time when we're really putting down markers that are going to impact on a child. So we know that a baby is born with the most amazing abilities. Their brain is all there. And our job as adults, as parents, is to help build up those links within their brain. Those first 1,001 days are a really crucial part of that. But the pregnancy part is really interesting as well. So that's about how do we really take care of ourselves as women during pregnancy, and recognising that the food we eat, the amount we drink, the stress that we experience all has an impact on our unborn baby. There's particular research now looking at stress. So if a mother is highly stressed during pregnancy, the cortisol levels that she's experiencing, so it's the stress hormones that she's experiencing, will also be going through the placenta and impacting the baby. And obviously, it's very difficult to avoid all stress, but it's trying to look at things about, so if there are particular stressors going on, can we change that? And recognising that actually that is having an impact on our unborn child. So when a baby is first born, for all children and for all babies, love is the underpinning And I think we probably all know that love is something that we all need as adults and as children. So this photo is of my baby, my first baby. This is Lily when she was just a few hours old. And Lily, as I said, is now 23. So seems like a long time ago. And for some mums, when they give birth, they immediately have that strong sense of love. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes that comes, sometimes that needs working on. But the way that we show love is around things like how we hold our babies, how we soothe them, how we're calming, the way that we're holding them. When you're holding and rocking and soothing and making those noises, those kind of shushing noises, those are really, really essential connections. And I think sometimes we can think, they're a newborn baby, does it really matter? It does. It's absolutely crucial. So if you've had a baby recently, or even just a few years ago, you'll remember those times where your baby just cries and cries and cries. And that can be really, really hard. And sometimes you just think, I don't know what you want. You don't need feeding. You don't need your nappy changing. You're not too hot or cold. And actually what they want is just to be held. And so there are whole ideas around whether you have your baby sleeping with you or sleeping by the side or sleeping in another room, or lots and lots of different ways around parenting. But the one thing that is a consistent is babies need lots and lots and lots of love. And part of that is by that demonstrating through the holding and the calming and the soothing and those noises that you make and the motion that you make, that soothing, calming motion, and being held tight and being cuddled, not too tight obviously, but being held and rocked and soothed is really, really important. And yes, putting them into a pram or something else that's going to rock them, that's great, but actually it doesn't beat that being held. So when my babies were little, I had a sling, a front sling, and I found that actually I was able to get on and do things if they were in the sling on my chest, and they felt safe there. And that's part of the love, is that actually babies are needing to feel that they are safe. And when they're by you and you're holding them, they are picking up on your heartbeat. And if your heartbeat is calm, then their heartbeat will become calm. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment. So love is underpinning everything that we do, that we need to be doing. So babies need comfort, we all know that. But as part of the comfort, babies need an adult that is calm, and that's really essential. And that can be really hard when we have a baby who's really distressed. So my eldest, she cried a lot, an awful lot. And I think those first 6 months were a bit of a blur, if I'm honest. Sometimes she just cried and cried and cried, and we never really seemed to know what was going on. And that can be really trying. That can be really hard. And actually what helped her was the rocking and the walking. And sometimes my husband would take her out and walk in the night up and down the street as a way of calming her. And that seemed to help. So babies need calm adults. And part of being a calm adult is knowing ways to bring yourself down. Because we all know that the cry of a baby, and a consistent cry of a baby, can actually be really stressful. And if you're having lack of sleep and you're absolutely shattered and your baby is crying, that can feel really difficult. So we need to find ourselves in a place where we can find some calmness. And something that can help that is by taking some deep breaths. So if you're with your baby and the baby is crying a lot and you're feeling quite agitated, just take for a moment, put your baby down, step aside and take some really deep breaths and do some deep breathing. And that deep breathing will just begin to slow your heart rate. And when you're feeling slightly calmer, then you can pick up your baby and calm them and rock them. And while you're rocking your baby, that will not only help your baby if you're doing it calmly, it will also help you too. So that rocking movement can be comforting to the baby, but also to you. And the deep breaths, I'm going to talk about yoga towards the end, around how yoga can be really helpful for adults. But part of that is a deep breathing, some deep breathing within yoga. But one really quick exercise I'm just going to show you now that you could use. So if you're feeling quite agitated and you're needing to bring down your stress levels and bring down your heart rate, is you can do some breathing through your nose. So the way you do this is you're going to breathe through your nostril. So you'll breathe in on one side of the nostril and breathe out of the other, and then take it in turns. I'm just going to show you briefly now how that looks. So you breathe in through the right, and breathe out through the left. And you repeat that a few times, and what that's doing is that's bringing some calmness to you. It's slowing down your breathing. And then you're in a position where you're able to pick up your child and then start using some soothing words. So you could be picking them up and saying, oh, I can see you're really tired, you're really, really upset, or you're really hungry. It's okay. Your milk is being sorted, or I'm going to feed you now. So your soothing words are really helpful. So the baby obviously won't be able to understand the words that you're saying, but they will pick up on the tone. And if you are cross and angry, the baby will pick up on that, and that will frighten them, and it will make them more agitated and make them more upset. But if you can lower your tone of your voice and use a sing-song voice, so we naturally tend to use a sing-song voice with a baby, and that's great. When a child is agitated, then they can't hear things very well, but they can hear a sing-song voice. And the same goes for when they are toddlers and when they're a bit older. So if they're having a bit of a tantrum when they're older, that sing-song voice will really break through that. Oh no, I can see you're all a bit unhappy. What can I do to help you? Doesn't matter if you can't sing, I can't sing, but that sing-song voice really helps, can really guide them and help them. And this is all about us building attachment. So we talk a lot in early years about attachment. And there are different styles of attachment, and that's something you're interested in, then you could Google that. Attachment is really important. It's about the relationships we're building. It's about how do we connect? How do we do that? And that's about giving attention. It's about playing. Relationship building is through the attention that we give to children. It's through the play and the connection that we have. So it's things like getting down on the floor and playing with your baby, having that eye contact, doing that stop and start, that conversation. You're talking to your baby and you give them the chance to talk back to you. So we know obviously babies aren't using words, but they begin to make sounds and they begin to make noises from a really young age. And babies adore it when they have an adult looking at them and chatting to them. That's all about those early attachments and baby and building relationship. And they are so crucial. They're building really strong networks in the baby's brain, which will enable them to go on and learn and develop as they grow. But it's that play and connection as well. So definitely playing with babies is vital. Sometimes as adults, as parents, it can be really difficult to find the time to do that, but it's really essential. You often hear people who are parents of older children saying, where did that time go? And it's true, you know, mine are 21 and 23, and it doesn't seem that long ago that it was. So this little one on the screen now is my youngest little girl, Summer, when she was about 9 months, and my husband. And it doesn't really seem that long ago. And yet now I look at her and she's a 21-year-old, she's an adult, she's a woman. But that play and connection is just vital. And the warmth that we show through that. So babies need our help to be regulated. Baby and children cannot regulate themselves. They need to learn. And they learn through us. And as I said before, if we hold them and we're soothing them and we're calm ourselves, that will help to calm them. We need to be in a calm and safe place ourselves to be able to do that, to be able to give them the skills. So we can show them by deep breathing. We can use our words to help to calm them. We can do things like going outside. If you find that going outside is quite helpful for you, I understand in UAE that's probably not something you'd be doing maybe at this time of year, maybe as the year goes on, when it begins to get calmer, cooler for you. Certainly for here, going outside can be a really good way of just calming down. So I find being in nature, for me, really, really helpful. When the girls were little, we would regularly walk them to see the cows. I live in a village, and there are cows very near our house. So we would walk to see the cows, and that short walk, 5-minute walk, was enough to calm them and to calm me, and it helped me to be regulated, and it helped the children to be regulated. So it's finding things that help that. So it might be dancing. You might find that what helps to regulate you is dancing. And if your baby's feeling agitated, you might decide to put some music on and hold your baby and dance around, holding them safely. And that might help to calm you, and it might help to calm them. And you may find that that then gets them giggling. Obviously, it's working out what their needs are. If their need in that moment is to be fed, then they need to be fed rather than to be danced. But if they're just a bit grouchy and a bit grumpy, then, you know, that might help. You might find that sitting and reading to them helps them, that actually reading them a story, or gently massaging them and doing some touch. So gently rubbing their hands and doing some massage on them, that might help to bring them down. It would also help to bring you down. So it's finding those ways, but you need to be regulated. If you're not feeling regulated, you need to step away and pass your baby to somebody else, so your partner or your parents or your friend, and go, actually, I can't do this. And if you can feel in yourself that you're feeling really, really agitated, better to put the baby in a safe place, step aside for a few moments, and then come back when you're calmed down. Because actually, a very stressed and distressed adult is not going to help a baby. So as I said, we can do some breathing that might calm ourselves. You might find simple things like having some hand cream might really help you. So do a hand massage, have some hand cream in your house, go and get some hand cream and do a hand massage on yourself, which might help to just bring you down. Listen to some soothing music if that helps you. But do something, look at some pictures if that helps you, but find something that helps to bring you down is really, really important, because then you're in a better place to be able to support your baby and your child. And then the other essential thing with children's wellbeing is the connections, as I mentioned before. So right from when they are tiny, we can play with them. Obviously not in a boisterous way when they're really little, but as they get older, you can do more things. But play, reading to them. I read to my babies when they were first born. I took the book that I really wanted to read with me to the hospital, and I read it to them when they were a few hours old. And for both of them, it was the story To the Moon, and I can't think what it's called, A Little Nut Brown Hair. I Love You to the Moon and Back. So play and reading is really important. Exploring with them as they begin to get older. So toddlers are full of excitement and curiosity, and they want to explore. They want to discover things. Everything is amazing. If you go for a walk with a toddler, they will stop at every moment. They will stop at each snail, at each leaf. They want to discover it, and they want an adult with them who's curious and excited with them, who wants to explore with them and adventure with them. And you don't need loads of toys or expensive things to do that. It's about the time with them. So it's about stopping and looking and being curious with them. And when they're excited by something they found under the sofa, then go with it and play with it and see what's going on. When they're excited by a cat that they've seen, talk about it, join in that excitement. That's all about making those connections, and those are so, so important. And as I said, it's about it's finding those ways in, it's finding those opportunities that make those stories, that make that child know that they are loved and that they are precious and that you're really interested in them. And the other thing is to talk and to talk and to talk. Our children, our babies and our toddlers need us talking to them again and again and again and again. There is so much around how we can help children to really develop into being ready for learning at the appropriate time, and that underpinned by this talk and language and lots and lots and lots of it. So right from the word go, when your baby is born, talk to them. They won't understand your words that you're saying, but talk to them, keep talking to them. When you're holding them and you're walking around the house, point things out to them. Oh, look, have you seen the picture? Oh, look out the window, I can see a tree. Look at those beautiful green leaves on the tree. As you're out in the car, talk to them. What you're seeing as you're going along. Hey, I just saw a red car. I saw a green lorry there. Oh, look, I wonder who's driving that. It doesn't matter what you're saying, but it's that talking to them. They will then be picking up on that. When you're out shopping, talk to them. If you're going to the shops, talk to them about what you're buying. Talk to them about the colours that you're seeing. When you're eating food, when they're eating with you, and again, eat food with them, modelling all the time. While you're having a meal together, when they're a little bit older and they're taking solids, talk about what they're eating. Talk about the taste, talk about the textures. As they get older, you'll then start to use numbers. As you walk upstairs, let's go and count the stairs together. How many stairs are there? Oh, look, there's 10 stairs in our house. When you see animals, pointing them out. Hey, look, there's a cow, or there's a cat, there's a dog, whatever it is. Language and language and language and language is so important. It's so rich. And actually thinking that children are going to get that language from devices is not the case. They get that language from hearing it from the people around them. And certainly here in the UK, we're seeing a real problem at the moment where children's language is getting less and less. It's not very clear. They're arriving at school with real language problems, with real communication problems, and that's very, very difficult for them to go on and learn. And the part of the reason for that is they're not having enough language and they're not being spoken to enough at home. What they are doing is spending a lot of time on devices, and they're not getting the language development that they need from that. So playing games on screens, on tablets and things like that is really problematic for little children. That's not where they're getting their language. Where they're getting their language is from connecting with you. So things like, baking with children, making cakes with children, drawing with children, going out and discovering all those things, using language all the time. When you're looking at books, look at books lots, keep looking at books, and that's a wonderful way of developing language with children and helping them to really understand that. So I'm just going to look in this last little bit about stress for us, for parents. We all will experience stress in different ways, and some stress is fine. Some stress is quite good for us. It gets us out of the house. It gets us up and it gets us doing things. But too much stress can be really problematic and it can be really toxic. And we need to kind of be really aware of that. One of the things I would suggest is knowing yourself and knowing what's going on in your body and what stress does to you. And being able to think about what are the signs in my body that I'm very stressed. So for me, I know I'm stressed when my jaw begins to really ache. I know I'm stressed when my neck and my shoulders begin to hurt and I get headaches. And if I get migraines, then that's a sign that the stress has become too much. So it's knowing it for you. For other people, it may be that they get backache or they get stomach pains, or they become really grouchy or really snappy, or they're struggling to sleep. I think when you've identified what stress does to you and what your warning signals are, because your body will give you warning signals. Once you've identified those, then you need to think about some ways in which you can help to alleviate it. So ask yourself the question, is there something I need to change? Is there a big change that needs to happen here? And that may or may not be possible. But there may be other things that you can do that will really help you. So for example, yoga really helps. So I do a yoga class every week, and that definitely really helps to bring down my stress levels. There may be yoga classes around nearby that you can attend, or there are loads of yoga classes online now that you can do. Breathing exercises in the way that I mentioned earlier, that can be really helpful. Mindfulness could be a part of that. Again, mindfulness is something that if you Google, you'll find lots of examples of mindfulness and some mindful exercises. Exercising is really good for stress. So for me, I swim. I go to a local pool and I swim 5 mornings a week. And that was very difficult during COVID, during lockdown, because our pools were closed. They've reopened. So I'm now back on week 4 of swimming. And that's really helped me, definitely. But if you're still, if we're still experiencing lockdown, again, it's finding ways to exercise that can work. So it might be doing an exercise class from your house. It might be doing some dancing in your house. If you're able to go for a run, it might be doing that. So it's finding something. Eating well. We all know there's lots of information now around eating well, but it's particularly important, I think, when you're a parent with young children. And sometimes our eating habits can really show that we're stressed. So I know for me, if I'm very stressed, I tend to eat food that's not particularly good for me. And that's, again, another warning sign for me. It might be that I feel like I've got less time to cook from scratch, or you just kind of crave more food that isn't particularly great when I'm stressed. So eating well generally, the whole stuff around eating healthily and a good mix of fruit and veg and fibre, and really doing that and paying attention to that. Seeing others, I think, is important too. And I think during COVID, that's been a really difficult thing. A lot of people have felt very isolated. I know a lot of young parents have found that incredibly difficult. I have friends who have had babies during COVID, and that's been a really hard time. Not being able to get out so easily, not being able to see people so easily has been very difficult. So getting out and being able to see people if you can, and get out of the house. I think sometimes, again, that's difficult during lockdown, but sometimes you can just feel really confined, and if you're feeling very stressed, and sometimes being in your house can just feel a little bit too much. So can you get out? Can you go and see somebody? Can you go and see some friends? Have you got family nearby? Even if you just go to the shops, go to the mall, whatever it is, but actually get out. For me, it would be getting out in nature is important. But it's finding those things that are particularly useful for you. And I think it can be useful when you're not in a stressed place, writing down some strategies and put them up on the fridge, or put them somewhere where you can see, when I'm stressed, I'm going to do. So think of 5 things that really help you. And if you can, that could be something that you do at the end of this, is think of 5 things that help you when you're stressed. So that make you feel good. So that might be phoning a friend. It might be eating some particular food. It might be doing some exercise. For me, it would be gardening. So gardening I love, and that really lowers my stress levels. Or going for a walk. But for you, it might even be reading a book or listening to some music. But if you could write down 5 things that help you when you're stressed, then when you're in that stress moment, you can go and remind yourself. Because often when we're in that stress moment, that's the time when we can't really think straight, and we can't really know, we don't always automatically know what to do. But if you've got that written down reminder, then it will show you, and you can go, oh yeah, okay, when I'm stressed, I find reading a book really useful, so I'm going to go and do that. Or when I'm stressed, I find listening to music handy, so I'm going to go and listen to some music, and that will help to bring you down. But you can't look after your child's well-being if you're not in a good place yourself. The only way we can really support children's well-being is when we're in a good place and we're looking after ourselves. So I think looking after ourselves is not a luxury, it's absolutely essential, and it's something that we all need to be thinking about how we do. So according to my phone, it's now past, so it's now time for questions and answers. I'm going to answer as many as I possibly can from those submitted in the chat box. You may also like to raise a hand, and we'll try and see how that works. Right, I'm just going to try and come out of my screen so that I can then see any questions. So if anybody has got any questions, do you want to question and answers? Okay, I'm not seeing any at the moment. If anybody else would like to, let me know. Okay, just going to give you a few more moments to see about that. Okay. So I'm on the chat room, so if anybody wants to add anything, then do that. But otherwise, hopefully that's been helpful. Okay, somebody's suggesting try to refer to some questions frequently asked by parents based on your experience. To be honest, that's really varied. I mean, most of the parents I work with are parents of children who are finding life really difficult. So I work with children who can at times. So I work with 4-year-old children mainly who can be just incredibly violent and find life quite overwhelming, and that violence comes from a place of being really scared. Oh, here we go. I've got a question here. How do you deal with a sibling around the house and young baby from early pregnancy to just being born? What's the best advice for dealing with other children around the house? Okay, that's quite tricky. I would say it's about giving attention to the sibling as well as to the baby, and being able to help them understand. So the big thing for me is when you're pregnant and you have an older child, preparation before you have that child is really key. So it's a big change, it's a big transition. So I would be saying that you need to involve them in that, not too early, depending on the age of the child, but involve them in it. So talk about the new baby that's coming, look at books about new babies, show them things around what you're buying for the new baby, maybe get them to help you set the room up, all those sorts of things, set the cot up, whatever it is you're going to be using. And then when the baby arrives, talking really honestly about feelings and emotions. So how they might feel about the new baby. They might at times feel really happy and really positive, but they might also at times feel really quite unhappy and not that great about it. And that's okay. And recognizing that our feelings are all right. They are neither right or wrong. They just are. But it's how we respond to our feelings that we need to be careful about. So if you can, making sure that you have time with the older sibling on their own, as well as with the younger one, and managing that. So give them some attention. Don't get too much into giving them lots of jobs to do, because then that could be really difficult. So I've just seen there's some question and answers there. Okay. There we go. Okay, how can one effectively manage sleepless nights while taking care of a newborn? Oh, okay. Sleepless nights. Sleepless nights are really hard. If you can, sleep in the day. So when your baby is sleeping, sleep. I think that's absolutely crucial. If you have a partner or if you have family with you, see if they can take turns sometimes. That's really key. I know it can be difficult if your partner has a job and they need to be getting up in the morning. But also be really realistic, be really kind to yourself. So if you've had a really sleepless night, don't expect to then be able to do lots of things the next day during the day. Be kind about housework and cooking and all those sorts of things. It's really tough. So but definitely I think the top tip would be grab sleep when you can. There's some ideas that babies ought to be sleeping a lot and that they should be sleeping through the night. That wasn't my experience. I had 2 babies that didn't sleep through the night for about 18 months. And when I went back to work when they were 5 months for both of them, and their sleeping got worse. So that was really tricky. So yeah, sleep when you can, rest when you can, be kind to yourself, I think be my top tips on that. Please, can you give any tips to hyperactivity to calm children? Yeah, I work with quite a lot of hyperactive children. First thing I would say is try and look at what you think might be making them hyperactive. If you know, if children are hyperactive, spending time outside is really, really crucial. If you can, I know that may be difficult where you are, but giving them opportunities to be out, be doing things, climbing on things, running around, all those sorts of things are quite good. If you're actually really wanting some calming techniques, doing some sensory play can be really calming. So making Play-Doh, you could Google making Play-Doh, depending on the age of the child, and do some calming things there. You could teach them mindfulness, you could teach them yoga. Those are really good calming techniques. Obviously, you're not going to be using those all the time, but for children who are quite hyperactive and quite boisterous and really need to be letting off energy, then you need to be giving them those opportunities. So taking them to parks, taking them to play parks, taking them to soft play, whatever it is you have there. If you've got a beach, take them to the beach, let them run on the beach. If that's possible, then do those sorts of things are really, really crucial. Yeah, those would be my top tips there. Yeah, I think those are the ones I've answered. So, I mean, certainly I think the things to remember are being kind to yourself, giving attention to your children. I mean, on the hyperactivity one and the one with older children, older siblings, and then babies, again, it's a kind of crucial thing of actually, what's the child trying to communicate to me? Because in all of children's behaviour, they're communicating, and for us, it's to try and really work out, okay, what is that communication about? Are they telling us that they really need some attention? Are they telling us that they need some time with us? Are they telling us that they're tired? Are they telling us that they need to get outside? What is it that they're trying to communicate? And that can be really tricky to try and interpret that and work that out and understand that. But I think what's quite key is to try and really hone in on that and try and work out and try and understand, and then say that to the child. You know what, I'm wondering if you're so bouncy at the moment about the hyperactivity. I wonder if you're so bouncy at the moment that actually you're telling me that being inside is just too much for you. Let's go and do something. Let's go and play football. Let's go and play basketball. Let's go and do something. So trying to see that all children's behaviour is a communication, and our job is to try and really understand that and really understand what they're communicating. And that can be hard, but it's just trying to kind of key into that and see. And again, with the question around the sibling and the young baby, they may well be feeling jealous. They've gone from a time where they've had time to you all by themselves, and now suddenly this other child's there, and they don't, even if they start with wanting to like them, there will be times where they don't really like them. And again, it's kind of recognizing that and really understanding how it feels for them. Their lives have really changed, just like your life has really changed. It's very different to go from being a parent of one to a parent of two. And I imagine going from being a parent of 2 to a parent of 3 is different again. Although I haven't done that, but I imagine that's another tricky change that we have to work out. But be kind to ourselves, take care of ourselves, look after ourselves and think about what we do. Think about well-being for us, think about well-being for the children. I'm just going to go back to my screen and finish with my last slide. Sorry, I'll go on to that. Oops, if it's going to let me. Here we go. Sorry, everybody, I'm just swapping screens. Just go to the last slide. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so it's just, I guess the reminder is well-being is something that's important for all of us. Well-being is something that we all need to give attention to. It's not a luxury for ourselves, but also it's not a luxury for our children. And if we can really get it right in those early years, if we can really pay attention and help to focus on our children's well-being and just think about those connections that we're making, how we play with them, how we talk to them, how we engage with them, how we help them to feel that they are loved and safe. By doing that, you're setting them up with such a good start in life. You really are. You're setting them up with that possibility to be able to really grow and develop and to become amazing things. Okay, so that's all my that's all my slides today. I hope that's helpful. I'm just here for any last questions you might want, but I hope that's given you some ideas. I hope it's given you some thoughts about what you might be able to do, just some simple things that you might be able to try. Thank you for taking your time out to come and listen this afternoon. It's really good of you to take time out to come and do that. Hang on, I might have one last question. Please, what is the meaning of well-being? Oh my goodness. A definition, definitions of well-being are quite interesting. A definition of well-being is about how do we feel? How do we view the world? How do we, how do you feel in yourself, in your head, and your body? Well-being for me is about knowing that I am healthy, that I am loved, that I have friends, that I am well, that I mostly can cope with life, that even when difficulties happen, I have the resources to be able to know how to deal with that. For me, that's around good well-being. So I know when a child has good well-being because they are able to cope with what life throws at them. If they fall over, they can deal with it. They can begin to learn to get on with their friends. They know that they are loved. They can turn to their parents or those safe adults around them for support and help when they need it. They are mostly happy. They're not always going to be happy, but they are mostly happy and in a good place. And for me, I know I have good well-being when that's the same, when I'm mostly happy. There are going to be times when I'm sad and fed up and angry and all the rest of it, but mostly life feels okay. It feels pretty good. I experience joy. I experience love. I know that I am loved and there are others that I love. And that's an essential part, I think, for well-being. So that's a little bit vague, but I hope that gives you an idea. Anyway, thank you. We're coming up to 1:45. Thank you very much for everybody's time. I hope that's been useful. There will be a handout that you're being sent, which I've written, which I think you can access. But thank you very much. So I'm now going to leave. Okay.